Welcome to On Tapes, a podcast about the physical medium of VHS tapes. I'm Rowan, and each week my co-host Mark and I will look at 3 tapes. One film that I have chosen, one film that he's chosen, and a third novelty tape, which we pick at random. Mark, how are you?
Quite hungry.
Really?
Yeah, I've got that thing.
Hungry for content?
No, food. I think I got that thing where, you get that disease and you eat and you're still hungry. Anyway.
What tapes we have today?
Today, Rowan, we have Jerry Lewis's The Bellboy from 1960, Paul Schrader's Touch from 1997, and a TV movie of Hollyoaks called Hollyoaks Indecent Behaviour, Subtitle Sex, Lies and Betrayal from 2001.
2 subtitles on that. You can choose. Where do you want to begin?
The Bellboy.
The Bellboy, eh?
Yes.
Tell us more.
So this is a Jerry Lewis film from 1960.
Go on.
This is a Jerry Lewis film from 1960. It's his first solo directorial feature after years as part of the comedy double act Martin and Lewis with everyone's favourite Rat Pack member Dean Martin.
What's that money guy's name? Is his name Martin Lewis?
That's someone.
Who's Martin Lewis? Is he the ITV money guy?
Yeah, money saving expert.
There we go. Okay. Martin Lewis has these shows where he'll stand in a shopping centre and people will come up to him being like, "How do I save for Christmas?" And then he'll go on a 5-minute rant with diagrams. Anyway,
it's a film. Essentially, it's a series of vignettes where Jerry Lewis is doing his shtick.
Not vignettes, Mark. Silly stories.
Silly stories. As the man at the start of the film tells us, because they had to put a disclaimer in there, this is a series of...
Well, first he walks you through what it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy. No, it is. Oops. It's not a drama. It's not a romance. Not a horror. It's just some silly stories. Or in other words, all bit.
It is all
no
bit.
filler.
I was very upset with this film at first because I thought Jerry wasn't going to talk the entire film, and I found it.
Jerry or Stanley?
Stanley. But then, partway through the film,
spoiler warning.
Should we get into the? We haven't even started with the plot.
There is no plot. Jerry Lewis is a bellboy.
Yeah, and it's just a series of him doing bellboy things.
Jerry Lewis is a bellboy. All you need.
With comedy, it's like a Chaplin Keaton thing.
Yeah, essentially, which is odd because, to me, a lot of the Lewis stuff is in the voice.
Yeah.
But what you do get from this is more of a heightened sense of his comedic movements.
His physicality.
His physical comedy, yes.
Hey ladies!
That's all vocal though.
Yeah.
A lot of the Jerry Lewis stuff that you associate with him is that voice. And in this, you don't get that, obviously.
But I think this film does encapsulate a lot of what Jerry Lewis is all about. For instance, his constant obsession with fame and his own fame and metatextuality.
So about midway through the film, they are talking about celebrities coming to stay at the hotel. And one of the celebrities staying is Jerry Lewis. And you might ask, but isn't Jerry Lewis playing the lead in this film? Yes.
And it becomes a bit involved with the fact that there's a lookalike in the hotel.
Yes. And there's gags where Stanley will go into somewhere and then come back as Jerry Lewis. There's a scene where there's a lift and it's got a bunch of paparazzi, I think, or people crowded around it. Jerry goes in and then you see 2 minutes later Stanley comes stumbling out.
And of course,
good quick change.
Much like in most of Jerry Lewis's films, it's about a sort of large group of people taking advantage of Jerry, I guess, and him kind of stumbling his way through the world.
Yeah.
And when we see Jerry Lewis arrive, he's got this massive entourage that won't leave him alone. Mm-hmm. And he's
constantly, what's the word, not harassing, kind of harassing him, kind of goading him into doing his bits, his famous shtick.
It was weird when we saw Jerry Lewis arrive for me, because
the clown car, it's a car and you don't see one on the side and it's just people constantly leaving this small car, like the classic clown car gag.
But it wasn't that. It was the fact that he was doing his real voice.
Yeah,
he wasn't doing the Jerry voice.
He wasn't going over the top of it. See, I'd seen Jerry Lewis in interviews before, and I was familiar with it, and it didn't really shock me. I guess it could if you're only used to the over-the-top, exaggerated version.
Yeah. It does. He does lapse into the Jerry voice when he gets annoyed.
Good.
Which
Well, I'm sure the character really is just a heightened version of his own personality. It
Yeah.
kind of has to be. All good characters are that.
So, given that we're talking about the character of Jerry Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
and we spoke about the man Jerry Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
Rowan, what is Jerry Lewis?
Aww. In what sense?
What's he all about? We've not touched on it yet, really. Why Jerry Lewis is so fascinating for so many.
It's odd.
Would you say it's because he's the total filmmaker?
Yes. I love Jerry Lewis as a filmmaker.
Yeah, and so did the French.
But one of the things with him, I guess it's the sense of a lot of good comedy is it's not just ha-has.
No.
It's ha-has with a lot of deep subtext
Yeah, a lot of
and
his
undercurrents.
a lot of his stuff seems quite sad.
Mm-hmm. I assume a kid could watch this and get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah,
But watching these now, it gives you more perspective on the man, I would say.
yeah, because
Especially this one, since he did write it. He did write it, right?
yeah. Well, his films with Tashlin, they were kind of more social satires, like gags in them.
True.
There were wordy gags.
Mm-hmm.
With Jerry's films, you get the feeling that it's more about the self in conflict with the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like your Jacques Tati, Buster Keaton type style.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy going through the world and
All of his characters are just like he's never like playing like a high power executive or anything.
no,
He's just like all these like
schlubs.
sure jobs that are anyone off the street could kind of supplement these roles.
Yeah.
Like a runner for a film crew. I don't know what his job title would be in the Ladies' Man.
Woman Wrangler.
Yeah, I'll give him Woman Wrangler.
In the Patsy, he's picked up and made to be a film star.
Yeah, off the street or not off the street, off the hotel.
You kind of get the sense of his films that maybe he feels that he's just kind of like an ordinary guy who's happened to become something important and is trying to keep it together.
You mean Jerry Lewis thinks of himself in real life as that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Although he does seem
definitely.
a bit narcissistic as well in real life.
This is 1960. This is him coming into his own personality
Yeah.
and coming to terms with his own stardom.
By the time you get to Jerry and the King of Comedy, I think he's definitely solidified into that elder statesman, grumpy guy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the direction, a lot of his gags are visual, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, I think the one that encapsulates his style for me in this film is when he's in the theatre and he has to assemble the chairs.
I was thinking of this earlier when you were talking about how his characters are often are almost exploited by people.
Yeah,
I like this scene that you're about to talk about because it's kind of him getting one up.
yeah. So he's told to go and put the chairs in the theatre, and it cuts the theatre, and it's the widest, openest, massivest space you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks for like 10 seconds to the other side of the room, gets a chair, slowly walks to the other side of the room to put the one chair out, then goes back to the other side of the room to get another chair. But then it cuts to a seat, someone outside saying, "We'll go check on him."
Yeah.
And
Laughing up at the fact that it's going to take him, they've given him a task that's going to take him days.
yeah, and they get in there and it's already done.
Mm-hmm. That also reminds me of the other visual gag. There's a scene where he's outside
Yeah,
and it immediately cuts to day. It's nighttime and it immediately cuts to day and you see people in the hotel waking up like arguing about what time of day it is. They're like, no, surely it can't be morning already.
there's so much depth to all of these images. Like there's the one where they're all sort of lined up in a row and it goes on for ages.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think of the old adage about how tragedy is a close up and comedy is a long shot. Kind of your Buster Keaton style, where a lot of his gags are him in a big wide open space.
Yeah. What was your favorite bit from this? Favorite gag? If you can pick one.
Oh, it's quite difficult. I did like when there's the one character who goes to stay, and she's like really fat, and then when she comes out after like a week of staying there, she's become really thin. Do you remember that bit?
I thought it was the inverse.
It might have been the inverse, and she looks completely different now.
There's the bit where Jerry gives her like chocolate. They try to keep the chocolate away from her. And Jerry gives her the chocolate.
Oh right, yeah, you're right.
Have you just?
It's been a while since I saw it.
Okay.
Oh, there's the bit where because there's Jerry and the bellboy who's his double. There's also Milton Berle in this film.
Yes.
And they discover there's a Milton Berle doppelganger working there. Oh, did you like at the end that there was a senator called Senator Tashlin?
Was there?
Yeah, they said, we'll ring up Senator Tashlin.
Speaking of names, poor Lewis name in this one. Usually Jerry Lewis has like good names for his characters.
The peak for me, Herbert H. Hebert from The Ladies' Man.
Mine is Eugene Fulstad of Artists and Models. But this one he's just Stanley.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have a lot to play with here.
What's he call him, Nutty Professor? Do you think people know that Jerry Lewis was the original Nutty Professor?
No, our generation.
No, I think the first time I ever heard the name Jerry Lewis was when I heard that he was the basis for Professor Frink.
True. Yeah, I think maybe the same for me, honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Ivan Maven Cleveland.
Well, Ivan! Ladies!
This was a Miami film.
Yeah, it was. It's weird to see them talking about Miami as this tourist destination back in the 60s. Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine Miami pre-Coke. It's like a different place.
Guess that was when it was started, though. Do you think Jerry Lewis is funny?
Yeah, but
Some people don't find him funny.
I don't get that. Yeah, you see a lot of his films have like middling ratings because
Yeah.
people just don't get it.
Maybe some of the jokes.
Maybe it is not that they don't get it. People just don't. It's not surface. It's not smart comedy on the surface. And
It's
I think
not laugh,
people,
laugh. It's not airplane.
yeah, and people don't want to. I don't know. It's not lowbrow. It's not highbrow. It's weird.
Then again, I don't find Jacques Tati particularly amusing.
Mm.
It's more the kind of. I mean, with him, it's the kind of comedy where you go, haha, very witty.
Mm.
With Jerry, I'd say there are some actual solid laughs.
Yeah.
Then there's some laughs where you're like, that's really
Some
lame.
chuckles.
But then there's just the bits where you're like, oh, that's good stuff.
And especially because we were watching this while taking notes, I assume.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of took away from it. The best time to watch Jerry Lewis is just hanging out with a bud.
In the middle of the night. Which is how we watch The Ladies' Man.
Yeah.
God, that was good.
That was the introduction to our Jerry Lewis Odyssey. Here's one for you. Would you rather stay in this hotel or the hotel from Dunstan checks in?
This hotel. I might meet a doppelganger of myself.
No, you might meet Jerry Lewis. You might meet yourself.
It's what I've always wanted.
Ooh.
This hotel seems better run. There's no monkeys.
All the bellboys seem very, like, militant.
Yeah.
Where do you think Jerry Lewis sits in society these days?
His influence is there, I guess, to an extent.
Do you think a recent comic would ever, like, refer to him as an influence, though?
Maybe not.
It's weird, like, how he seems to just being forgotten.
Well, his style of physical comedy is kind of gone out the window now. I mean, you had, I guess, Jackie Chan doing the kind of Buster Keaton thing.
Mm-hmm.
No one really doing the Jerry thing that much.
Guess you can kind of say,
Mr. Bean.
Yeah, Mr. Bean.
Well, Jerry's style of filmmaking is obviously very out of fashion because no one wants to do mise-en-scène anymore.
True.
It's all close-ups.
True.
People don't film rooms now.
There's no close-ups on this film, really.
No.
And if they do, it's, like, for effect.
Yeah. And his style is all mise-en-scène, really.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which we note especially in The Ladies' Man.
Yeah.
The set in that is just
Most of his style
something
is,
else.
it's in camera.
Yeah.
It's not like the sort of technical obscurism they do now. And of course, comedies nowadays is just guys improving. There's no.
I mean, when this was made, the studio picture was your drama.
Yeah.
But now the studio picture is the comedy.
Yeah. Well, there's no comedy now that's kind of directed by and starring the same person.
Tyler Perry.
Is Tyler Perry and Jerry Lewis what you're saying?
Yes.
I'd say he's more in the vein of Ernest. How about Jim Carrey? I think Maybe he's got a bit of a Jerry thing going on.
I don't know if he's directed anything,
No, he didn't direct anything.
but
But
he does kind of have
his
that
shtick.
the weird faces and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
Jerry is all about the weird faces, as you can see from the box.
Oh yeah, this box, which I noted at the end of last episode,
Yeah.
looks like it's a bootleg. The tape itself, if you look at the tape, it's also very bland.
Yeah.
The only reason I know this wasn't a bootleg is it's got a soft tag in it, which means it was sold in a shop and not by some street vendor, like your train spotting guy.
It definitely looks like it was churned out, though.
Yeah, they knew the audience was probably small.
Yeah, and maybe the rights didn't cost too much.
Yeah. It's also, we didn't know that this film's in black and white, and I think the colour of Jerry Lewis is much better.
Yeah, because he's good with his colour.
He is good with the colour.
I mean, there's so much red and pink in The Ladies' Man.
It's like a Wes Anderson film.
Wes Anderson kind of has some of the Jerry Lewis stuff in terms of his visual design.
Oh, I love when Bill Murray does his physical comedy.
Yeah, the difference, I guess, with the Wes Anderson style is that Bill Murray's style of comedy could be further from Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
When's Bill Murray going to make the faces?
Do you want to talk about Touch?
If we have to.
How do you feel? How did you feel about this film?
It was a film that was on the screen and then it ended.
Right? It was such a... I don't know. It's just one of those in one ear and out the other, but for eyes
Yeah.
and ears.
So, it's directed by Paul Schrader, and specifically written for the screen and directed by Paul Schrader.
Yes. It was a novel.
Yes, an Elmore Leonard novel.
Yes.
Which you can tell because there's some writing in the film, if you know what I mean. It's about a kid who is played by Skeet Ulrich, one of your favourite actors.
He was. I'll get to it.
You don't?
I'll get to it.
And he is a miracle worker. What do you call it?
Medical worker makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, one of those guys who touches people and they get better.
Not to be confused with a doctor.
The doctors don't literally lay their hands on you and invoke Jesus' name. So he's being exploited by... There's a cynical guy who just wants the money, played by Christopher Walken.
Bill Hill.
Yes.
Good Leonard name there.
Up there with Max Cherry.
Max Cherry. Doesn't actually see it in the film.
No. There's Tom Arnold's character who's like a Catholic paramilitary type thing.
Everyone's a character in this film.
Yeah. Then there's some women who like him for some reason.
Bridget
Fonda. Also in Jackie Brown. But most of all... Oh, and there's the media circus around him.
There is the media. Gina Gershon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was also good. Yeah, then it just sort of ends. It opens with an LL Cool J interview for some reason.
It does. What was that?
I don't know.
Is he friends with Paul Schrader or something?
They couldn't get him in the films, he's just on the telly.
Yeah.
Great cast, Walken, Gershon, Skeet, Tom Arnold.
Skeet, right? My man Skeet. This is 97, right?
Yeah.
He's coming right off the bat of the incredible performance of Billy
Loomis.
in Scream. And you think,
Stuff.
wow, what off-the-wall role are they going to give him now? Oh, a faith healing guy? That's probably cool. It's not. It's dull.
And he,
Dull Skeet is just... You could cast anyone in this role. Cast Ben Affleck in this role.
I do like that they got a guy who kind of looks a bit Luciferian. Especially the one scene where he's
Especially
walking
with
along.
a soul patch.
Yeah.
What's the character name?
Oh, God knows.
It's something stupid. Juvenile. That's the
Juvenile.
name.
He's called Juvenile. It's his Christian name or something.
Not to be confused with Juvenile of Hot Boys fame.
There was a time when people thought Skeet Ulrich was the next Johnny Depp.
I wish he was. I like my Skeet Ulrich. I like that one film he's in. Scream.
The credits make it look like it's going to be Pulp Fiction.
Do you want to hear some of the quotes I had written down?
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up before I get that new type of AIDS.
That was such a righted line.
Hearing aids. Do you think it's alright? I mean, stigmata blood going in the wash?
Was this a comedy, this film?
I don't know what this film was. We're such...
Those are the kind of lines we write.
If we sound confused, it's because the film didn't do us any favours in being a film.
No, I love Paul Schrader. Well, I love
Let's
that.
talk about Paul Schrader.
I love the film Mishima. It's one of my favorite films. And
You like to talk about your late period works from the directors. How about mid period? You start strong. You, I mean, he's not ending his career yet, but he's recently. I liked First Reformed.
Paul,
This is some weird middle stuff that's just nothing.
I feel like Paul Schrader is one of those very hit and miss directors where he's done some masterpieces, like writing Taxi Driver and Mishima, but then he's just got a bunch of rubbish
Yeah,
in between, like the Canyons.
yeah. To be fair, I haven't seen a lot of his stuff.
No, I want to watch Hardcore.
Yeah, yeah. What was that? That's still back in the 70s, though, right?
Yeah, and Blue Collar with Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Well, this was 2 years before Bringing Out the Dead that he wrote for
Oh.
Scorsese.
People like that film. I couldn't.
Well, this film.
On paper, Bring Out the Dead looks great, but in practice, it's a bit all over the place.
Well, Touch kind of feels like a vote for Bringing Out the Dead to the extent it's about miracles and stuff.
Yeah.
It's all the. Every time there's like religious mumbo jumbo in a Paul Schrader written film, I roll my eyes.
You say that. You haven't seen First Reformed.
No.
He kind of nails it in that.
He's, for his entire career, tried to replicate the ending of Dryas or Debt. And he's not done it yet, from what I've seen.
Not in this,
No.
certainly.
Do you have anything else to say about Touch?
Oh, we can talk about this box.
Stutch?
Is this a good representation of what the film is?
Yeah, because it looks like a load of crap.
You sure the back of the Christopher walking going up in flames? Does that not represent it better?
Yeah,
Also, we've been referring to this film as Stutch.
because there's a big dollar sign on the cover above the words Touch. It also looks like it's called Such.
Well, there's actually another S inside the O because it's a fingerprint, and in the fingerprint is another dollar sign. It's about money.
Yeah.
Stutch. Should we move on before we go insane?
God.
Any more insane?
The other thing about this film is, I will say, is the fact that it all
we're
is just
moving on.
shot in the blandest daylight beige 90s colours.
Yeah. Not much happening there.
If anything, it's the perfect film for video
Yeah.
because it's so washed out. Let's move on to the Hollyoaks tape.
So, this was one of the first tapes I bought when we were going to be doing this podcast. Because I thought it'd be interesting. Initially, when I saw the eBay listing, I thought it might just be some episodes of Hollyoaks. It's not. It's an hour and a half long film. But it is just essentially, well, is it an episode of Hollyoaks? Did it feel like an episode of Hollyoaks, Mark?
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen Hollyoaks.
Did it feel like an episode of a soap?
No.
Did it feel like a film?
No.
What did it feel like?
Don't know. Something unpleasant.
Yes.
It can't have been a soap because there was too much non-diegetic music, which takes the thing about
They
soaps.
do that in Hollyoaks, though.
Yeah, I don't like it. You want to have it like
We should mention that I have seen Hollyoaks, not this era Hollyoaks, but early 2010s kind of time Hollyoaks.
I like my soaps where it's like EastEnders, where all the stuff that happens is a bit stupid, but it's taken deadly seriously, and it's done in this really low-rent kitchen sink style, where there's no camera techniques aside from the occasional crane shot
Yeah.
as they leave Albert Square, and it's just low down and on the ground and depressing. None of this, because if they do the style, it just makes it look stupid.
Yeah. But that's what Hollyoaks is. That's what's always set Hollyoaks apart, to me anyway.
Yeah, that's why I always thought that it was like nothing, just rubbish. So what's this TV film about, Rowan?
Well, I don't know if you would have a better understanding of this if you were watching at the time. Like, I don't know anything about this. I tried to look stuff up. I don't know if this was aired on TV, if it was like a late night Channel 4 special. I don't know. I assume
I mean, the late night Channel 4 special is definitely a vibe.
I assume some of the plot lines were being built to on the show. But like there's the main plot of a footballer and who's been playing for England returning back to Hollyoaks and his life now with his fiancée. But there's also a bunch of weird side stories. One of the background plots is just this young couple going about their night.
Yeah.
And I assume their characters are in the show.
Yeah.
But what does this have to do with this film? Leave that out.
Who plays the main footballer guy? We didn't realise at first, did we?
He was all as we were watching this. I'm like, I kind of recognize that guy. We should note that everything about this is like early 2000s Britain.
Yeah, there's like
The costumes, the hair,
the faux hooks, the lad culture,
the sideburns,
the sort of weird casualness about sex, but it's still being really vanilla and cringy.
We'll get to the sex stuff.
God.
We're still on the betrayal stuff.
Right.
Yes, we didn't realize who was playing the main character, Jason.
And in retrospect, it was quite appropriate that it was someone like this.
Who is it, Mark?
It's Alex Reid, Rowan. It's Katie Price's former spouse, Alex Reid.
All you tabloid readers will be familiar
with the period in 2009 to 2011 where Alex Reid and Katie Price had a whirlwind romance and marriage immediately after her relationship with Peter Andre ended. Didn't recognise him at first in this because his face is all in one piece.
His nose isn't crooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it a cage fighter or something?
Yeah, MMA or something. What a career.
What a life.
The director of this thing is really trying to sell himself. He wants to go somewhere that isn't Hollyoaks.
What was the director's name?
David something Richardson?
Phil. No, it's Phil.
That's Phil Redmond who makes the show.
It is David Richardson.
Yeah, he's really trying to sell himself with like the techniques and the fades and the cross-cutting and a lot of the opening sequence is wordless.
Yeah, it's like a montage of football clips. Do you want to talk about the weird approach to sex it has?
The thing is, most of these tapes we've done, these final tapes, have been a bit of fun. This is just kind of...
Is this bottom of the barrel for you?
Yeah.
Is this worse than Lionel Richie and the Steam Fair?
I mean, those are just stupid. But this, it's just kind of unpleasant.
Yeah, it took a good soap. I feel like you can't take it too seriously. Here, right.
Here's the issue. It's trying to take itself seriously.
I was gonna say before, you can't take it too seriously. It's a soap, but the stuff they want to get away with in this. Should we talk about the rape?
Yeah, it's really using the threat of rape for exploitative drama.
Yeah,
with sort of no levity around it at all.
Especially because there'll be like a attempted rape scene.
Yeah.
Cut to like these people laughing in a club off to the side.
Yeah.
Like if you pace a film, surely you would want cutting between scenes of equal stakes, almost. But this is like the peaks and valleys are insanely different.
Yeah, I felt the whole thing seems to be trying to make a point about sort of the kind of trappings of casual sex culture of the time, but in the worst possible way. Mm-hmm. It's just rubbish. There's the one character who gets called a slapper because she has sex with a bunch of different guys at a party, and she's kind of ambivalent about that. That's some good bits.
Well,
no, I didn't have any good bits.
No. Talk about the good. What was your favourite bit about it?
When there was the stuff with the gay guys, because it was Manchester, reminded me of Queer as Folk. I like that show. Yeah. Classic early 2000s TV. Did you like the scene where the guy's friend is trying to get him to get over the sexual assault with the power of positive thinking?
No.
Me neither.
I'd like to take a moment to apologise for the weird vibe for this episode.
It's been a bit weird, hasn't
it? We've accidentally picked some weird tapes. And we are coming back off a hiatus.
Yeah.
I'll take the blame for that. I apologise.
Good. It's been a very confusing episode.
Yeah.
Just not know what to say from these. What are we supposed to say about Touch? What are we supposed to say about Hollyoaks TV movie?
What do you want from us?
If there's one thing Touch and Hollyoaks Indecent Behaviour have in common, it's that they both are trying to use sort of scenes for like drama that don't work at all.
Okay.
There's too much dramatic music in the Hollyoaks thing. That's why it works better when it's something like EastEnders doesn't use the dramatic music.
You just have some pop music on the radio.
Yeah, and it just sort of stands for itself.
In the back of the Vic.
It doesn't feel like the director hit you over the head with it. It's just stuff happening and maybe there's like a pop song on the radio just because that's how life be sometimes.
It, Mark. You like EastEnders. Maybe we'll touch that in another episode.
So you don't
it's
wanna,
a tease.
You don't want my top 10 EastEnders characters right now?
That's a tease. Keep that in the back pocket. Well, let's find out what we are going to be watching next time.
Okay,
Do you want to go first?
sure. I'll just reach into the box of Birra Moretti in which I am storing the film.
If you haven't got an Italian film, I'd be quite sad.
I don't, but I do have.
Oh, it's Drunken Master!
Starring Jackie Chan, who I was going to mention earlier. When
You did mention earlier.
Ah, did I? We did do a Hong Kong film not too long ago, but that was more of a gun film. This is a punchy.
Hand film. Appropriate that you pulled out of a box of beer.
Yes.
Empty box.
This is
To be recycled.
one of Jackie's earliest films, so.
No, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And directed by Yuen Wu Ping, and we recently rewatched the Matrix trilogy, which he did the choreography for.
I'm excited for this. I almost watched Return of the Drunken Master at one point,
Oh, I do want to watch that one as well.
but I watched Rumble in the Bronx instead.
I think Return of the Drunken
great
Master
film.
is the one where Jackie had got really anti-alcohol, so the entire film is him learning how to not drink.
Great.
Oh, and
Right.
also, I think you will like that this film is dubbed.
Good. But this is what I've got.
It's Spike Lee's Crooklyn,
It is.
which I haven't seen and I've wanted to see.
And if you look in the back of the box there, it says it's a sample.
A sample of what?
I guess a sample of the tape.
That they'd have in Blockbusters or something?
Yeah, I guess it is an early pressing or something.
Ah. Big box.
Yeah, big box.
Family comedy, according to the side.
Is it really?
Yeah, just with
Well,
the
I'm a big
Universal
Spike
logo.
Lee guy.
Yeah.
And this is one I haven't seen, so why not
Cool.
get it on the podcast?
I'm at the peak period of Spike, the mid-90s.
Yeah, night 4.
Cool.
And now comes...
The hat.
One's fallen out. I'll put it back in and reshake. Here you go.
I'm now reaching into the hat.
You don't need to say that every single time.
Yes, I do. It is number 9.
Great. I'll get that for you.
Good. What you got for me? It is. Ooh. Is it four?
What does the box say? What does the box
It
say?
says 4 short films by Martin Scorsese.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, one of them is The Big Shave, which I happen to know is 4 minutes long. That'll save time.
It'll be a nice week for you this week.
Yeah. Cool. How long is the whole thing? 75 minutes altogether.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's neat. I like his face on the cover.
Scorsese times 4.
Yeah, right his little beard.
I mentioned when we did the After Hours episode that I bought King of Comedy in a bundle with After Hours. Didn't mention that I also got this in the bundle.
Ah. I'm feeling fairly optimistic about next week.
Good.
Scorsese, Spike Lee, Jackie Chan. The big three.
The big three.
Big three names
The holy trinity of cinema.
of New York.
Of New York. And that's where we'll
He
leave
did
you.
do the Rumble in the Bronx.
I was just thinking that. And that's been episode 6.
Any final thoughts?
I ask you that usually.
Go on then.
Any final remarks?
Jerry-
Mark?
Jerry Lewis is a genius.
And we hope you join us next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.